Say a pleasant good evening to consumer advocate, the man who's no stranger to the Observer, Mr. Trevor Hosten. Pleasant good evening to you, sir.
A most wonderful good evening to you, Mike. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. How do you feel? More money in your pocket? Back pay? Christmas? Is there anything to celebrate? What's your takeaway from the budget that was read by the finance minister earlier this week?
Mike, there's nothing to celebrate. And I think it's time that we relinquish the term minimum wage and focus on adequate living remuneration, meaning that it is actually sustainable for workers to live reasonably well. And in that way, our politicians would be in tune with reality. But as it is right now, they look at minimum as the poor class, people who can ill afford many of the luxuries that they themselves enjoy. And actually, they were prepared to increase the wage by only $2. But when they evaluated the preponderance of negative complaints and unions pleading and so on, they relented at the very last minute to offer $3, bringing it to $20.50. And you might notice how the Minister of Finance chooses to proudly address it repeatedly as a 17% increase in wages and not $3. In other words, the 17% sound more grand than $3. You understand?
I understand. And basically, the minister said that that measure will benefit about close to 200,000 citizens. He said people in the workforce who will, of course, who've been relying on this minimum wage. But again, we did hear from the Prime Minister some time back, a bit of a Reaganomics, that those who have, once they expand, they expect it to trickle down to the average man. And how much of that is real, especially in our economy?
None of it is real. I mean, as a government, you must be aware what food prices are. You have a Minister of Trade, you can instantly get information. I mean, the Prime Minister can get information from her, the Minister of Finance, and so on. But how could a government with its members enjoying five-star living, they live in luxury, how could they ever feel comfortable offering a $2, which is what they had planned originally? Okay, let's say $3 for argument's sake, a $3 wage increase, knowing, Mike, I go to the supermarket, I have seen food prices increase in some cases by 55-70%. And even fruits, locally grown fruits have increased by over 100%. Pawpaw used to be $4, is now $12. Banana used to be $4, is now $8. Pineapple, $6 before, is $12 now. And today I bought cucumbers at $12 a pound. So imagine this poor girl, this poor guy going to work and propping up the 1%. In most cases, they are making them rich, and these are the prices that they have to pay in the grocery. We're talking about basic, we're talking about no luxury yet.
Right.
And then rents have increased enormously. And these poor people can only afford roll-on, roll-off vehicles. That's all that is affordable for them. So we have a government that is completely out of touch with the people here. And they just try to keep them quiet so they wouldn't riot. You understand?
Yeah, but even on the issue of foreign exchange, the minister said that because of our appetite for things coming out of North America and the fact that we need these things, that has somewhat put some pressure on getting accessibility to Forex. He said he has consulted now with banks, and Exim Bank, as a matter of fact, he made that quite clear. He's been speaking to the chamber, and he hopes that some of the things that they propose, he will be able to implement and give easier access to those who need to get foreign exchange. What say you on that? I mean, again, I'm listening to what you're saying, and really and truly, it seems to say that the administration is totally out of sync with the reality. I mean, when you have businesses that need to do business coming out of a pandemic, one would think that these things would be made a priority as far as SMEs and not this talk about property tax. Now, we're no longer hearing about the entire local government reform. We're hearing about the fact that come January of 2024, this will be put in place, and it will take some time, according to the minister, in order to get it right. So in the interim, they will be, of course, giving to the corporations, the regional corporations, a certain amount of money based on the size and population. That, again, it tells you that are we seeing, like others are saying, are we really seeing a election budget here?
This is an election budget to keep the masses quiet. This is an election budget to get back in power. That's all it could be, to keep them quiet. Some oil prices has increased somewhat, so they're a little buoyant and more confident that they can ride the wave in the meantime, because they presented a 2024 budget with basically no price increases at all. And they have only done that because oil prices has taken a rebound, and they do not have the foresight to diversify the economy to create more foreign exchange. You cannot blame your citizens for being educated. You cannot blame your citizens for wanting a better quality merchandise or better quality products than what they get in here at ridiculously high prices. So don't blame them for spending X amount of money on their credit card bill, because that they feel that they're justifiable, have a right to feel so, that they need to get quality goods. But if had the government diversified the economy, you realize what standards would have done for Tobago and our foreign exchange. However, that deal went down wrong. The government had ample time to turn it around, because I think Trinidad and Tobago is the only Caribbean island of the 14 islands in the Caribbean that does not have a world-renowned indigenous from Jamaica standards resort. So picture the amount of people that would have been employed, the amount of flights coming in, the amount of work for the laundry worker, the taxi driver, the front desk, the vegetable grower, the trader bringing in foods and alcohol and so for them. That is how you create foreign exchange. There are certain things that only a government can do, and there are certain things that only the local entrepreneurs can do. Okay?
On the issue of education, and again, this in itself is a stark contrast based on what you were saying earlier, as far as having this minimum wage for those people who may be unskilled and may not be academically inclined. But yet still, as far as education, you said they have consistently recognized the importance of an educated society for growth and development. And the educational institutions have been creating a pool of individuals capable of charting the future in a growing economy. But many of these individuals in that pool, when they come out, basically have no job, that nothing is given to them. I mean, how real, again, on this issue of education was the minister speaking about?
Not very real at all. They live in a bubble. They're not in reality with what is going on. There are people who have gone, when I say people, I mean respectfully, young people who have graduated from school 22, 24, 20, 25 years, highly qualified, and cannot get a job. I met someone who trained highly in petrochemicals and so on. He now driving a taxi. He cannot get the right kind of job to pay him the money that he thinks he deserves in that particular field. So we have to broaden trade. We have to promote. I think one of the alleviation of these problems we have to promote more entrepreneurship. That's the only thing can save us, because people will be more inclined to love their country, work for their country, stay out of crime, that sort of stuff. But back to the labor that they're asking. Labor is an added cost for doing business, Mikey.
Right.
And the government will readily pay, and private enterprise will readily pay higher manufacturers' cost, duties, freight, advertising, public relations, and they will pay top executives abundant salaries, give them prestige vehicles and luxurious housing. But guess what? When it comes to the very masses whose pivotal services they cannot do without, they get stingy, they get mean, they get unrelenting. Nobody can live on $20 and 50% comfortably. They cannot. I remember going to a Burger King in Miami a few years ago, and I got there maybe like minutes before I ordered my stuff, sat down to eat it, and I realized, looking through the window, the very cashier who had served me, she locked up a 4 o'clock shift night, and she gone in her Benz to drive home. Whether it was a second-hand Benz or a third-class Benz, God damn it, is a Benz that she could afford to drive and enjoy the luxury and the prestige of driving a Benz. But you think in Trinidad that could ever happen? We make such a fuss about Porsche and Range Rover, and so you go to Panama, you go to Martinique, all these places have gone to Venezuela, and all these are taxis they're running with. But the government make it so unaffordable for the masses that the masses cannot buy it. You know, that is reserved for them. That is reserved for that certain elite clique, the echelons of society. And I think Trinidadians are the most tolerant people on the face of the earth. We have taken so much. You remember the Minister of Finance said 2 years ago,
Yeah.
but this presentation, he raised the gas price and they riot yet. Because he expecting under normal condition they would riot. Why are we so complacent to the point where we're suffering? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but the issue here, Trevor, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, so disconnected. 400 million, well, more money was given to agriculture. But farmers still cannot access their crops. There are no access roads. There are no waivers as far as on pesticides. There's nothing there as far as looking at the technology that needs to be introduced into farming. There's so many apps that a farmer doesn't need to be on site where he can operate everything that is functioning on his farm. None of these things were spoken about. It seems as though money is just being thrown at things when in fact that we have seen nothing materialize before. So what can we expect now? Simply just get ready for an election?
Yep. That's what they're aiming for, just get back in power and run the same template. This budget is a template, you know. You realize it's a recycling template. Sometimes they may increase the price depending on how the market conditions are. Our people are very frustrated, and apparently they pick up that signal that the masses are frustrated, so they really can't go and increase no price on anything. Give them $3 more. Taxi going to raise the fee and absorb that $3 more in no time at all. But we're very complacent. You know what we need as a government boy, headed by a prime minister boy, somebody who is entrepreneurial. Because we have had attorneys, lawyers as prime ministers. This one is a geologist. But if they were working for the private sector, they would have been fired a long time.
But they don't run their private business the way they do in government.
Absolutely not.
No, they don't.
Absolutely.
I mean, you come and you deliver a budget. There's holes, I mean, so many flaws, and yet still you're defending the fact that what you're offering cannot come about, cannot be a reality for the citizens of this country. Again, non-oil revenue, you estimate at about $35 billion. Where is that coming from?
Hopefully, if oil prices was to escalate, they anticipate they're going to get that.
No, but that's non-oil revenue.
And that's not oil revenue.
Yeah, and we hear so much about diversification and how the economy, and at one point, even the Prime Minister made fun of those who were telling him about diversification, and he said, you come and you want to diversify, and yet still nothing is taking place. I mean, we have come out of a pandemic, and yet still there seems to be no economic way forward as far as saying, this is the clear path that we're going to take as a country.
Trinidad should be the leader in economic development, economic opportunities in the Caribbean. You have all kind of tourism that will bring in revenue here. The UNC government built a children's hospital that this government had refused to operate until COVID came and they were forced to use it. So they have this $1 million edifice that's standing there for years not doing anything. But guess what? That could have been a good revenue earner if you had the top doctors, the top physicians here, the top specialists here operating out of that hospital. And then you advertise your medical services from Jamaica all the way down to Gayelle. People are going to come. You have cultural tourism, you have legal tourism, you have medical tourism. There are all different types of tourism that we can get involved in. But you need government assistance, government approvals. We have a culture of not doing business, or the ease of not doing business. In many other countries, it's the reverse. There's an ease of doing business. You know, if you have a bar and you get a license for a bar, that could take you almost a year.
Yeah.
Do you know that it is illegal for mini-mart? I service a niche market with mini-marts. And 2 years ago, the Minister of Health brought out regulations that they must have a license to sell Panadol. But they don't go to school to qualify if they give them Panadol Ultra, Panadol Multi-Symptom, Panadol Extra Strength. They don't, but guess what? It's to pay $400 a year for doing nothing at all. You know how many retailers are selling beer without a license now? They don't need to go and learn if a man wants a Stag or a Carib or a White Oak or a Red Oak or Blue Oak or whatever it is. They don't know. They're selling a drink a customer asks for. But it's the bureaucracy of getting it done. To get a license, you have to get customs. you have to get the police, you have to get the fire brigade, all this. How come they are not seeing this, Mikey? Is it that their life is too glorious?
I want to say, I want to agree with you, and I do agree with you, because the fact of it doesn't seem to be business friendly at all. And I always ask, does government have any business in business?
No, and let me tell you what causes corruption. The entrepreneur who wants to advance his business, put up a building fast, and rent it out as quickly as possible, what he else that he's entitled to do, his approvals can take 2 or 3 years. I'm involved in a development going on right now, about 40-something acres of land. You would not believe the amount of turmoil we're going through to get all the approvals on that piece of land that we can build some house and sell. These are the issues that we are having here with the government and a minister of trade who just don't seem to understand. I believe they have 2 societies. This year has 2 societies. One for the one that they represent, meaning the 1%, 2%, and 3% in the upper echelons, and the other part is really masses from the east-west corridor go all the way.
And I think, Trevor, it's a culture, and I think that, and as you're saying, if you're dealing with any of those agencies that you need to get approvals for buildings, I mean, you have to be on their case, and finally, when these public servants do deliver, it seems as though it constitutes doing a favor for you, when in fact that they should have been doing their job all along. So I think it's a culture that I really don't. It didn't happen overnight, and it's not going to be, out of our systems anytime soon. Closing comments? Go ahead.
Closing comments, my good man. The politicians who make the rule to govern the masses, they live in high. And I think that the masses are too complacent, and it's time they get a little more vocal and threaten the system, to rectify the system, to get the desired change that they can progress. They deserve better than what they are getting now. They have to educate themselves. Am I better off under this government, under the last government? Am I better off? And they will find the answers that if they were to be proactive. They're not proactive right now. They have to wake up.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking time out. As always, it's been a pleasure, and you've really been insightful. Thank you so much, Trevor, and we'll be checking in with you, of course, periodically. Keep up the good work, my friend.
Always a pleasure. Distinct pleasure, my good man. Thanks for your efforts also. Thank you very much.